Minnesota. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also revisit our interview with District 18 congressional candidate Amanda Edwards ahead of tomorrow's special election.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. Plus, the Texas A&M Transportation Institute, Dr. David Schrank will break down the Texas top 100 congested road segments, list and why so many Harris County roadways are on it.
And as always, we want to hear from you, so give us a call, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The U.S. Senate is back in session ahead of a midnight deadline to approve agencies' funding or allow the government to partially shut down. Even if the Senate passes a deal, the House also needs to sign off, and it's not back in session until Monday. Here's House Speaker Mike Johnson.
It may not be possible. We have a rule of a 72-hour notice for a return, and I can try to truncate that, but I've got people literally spread around the world right now. So, and we have a snowstorm.
Under the latest proposal, lawmakers would isolate funding negotiations on the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees federal immigration enforcement. Senate Democrats, alarmed by deadly ICE confrontations in Minnesota, are demanding legislation requiring agents wear body cameras, stop wearing face masks, and end roving patrols. Well, federal agents have arrested veteran journalist Don Lemon and 3 others in connection with a protest at a St. Paul, Minnesota church where an immigration and customs enforcement official serves as a pastor. Lemon's attorney says the former CNN host, who has been critical of President Trump, was detained last night in Los Angeles, where he was covering the Grammy Awards. Independent journalist Georgia Fort was taken into custody this morning when she live-streamed the moments before her arrest on Facebook.
My children are here. They're impacted by this. This is all stemming from the fact that I filmed a protest as a member of the media.
NPR's David Folkenflik spoke with NPR's Morning Edition.
This does seem to be a focus of the Justice Department to pay attention to journalists who are amplifying, perhaps, voices that are critical of them. For example, if you think just a few days ago, I was on this program talking about the seizure of documents from Washington Post reporter Hannah Nathanson's home and devices there. A very unusual thing to do without a subpoena and without warning, doing it at the workplace.
NPR's David Folkenflik reporting. President Trump plans to nominate former central banker Kevin Warsh to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. NPR's Scott Horsley reports Trump announced the decision in a social media post.
Trump says Kevin Warsh is central casting for a central banker. The president's hoping Warsh will follow his roadmap to lower interest rates. Warsh previously served on the Fed's governing board from 2006 to 2011. During the financial crisis, he served as a liaison between the Fed and Wall Street, where he'd worked for Morgan Stanley. Trump has regularly criticized the current Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, for not lowering interest rates more aggressively. The Fed did cut rates 3 times last fall in an effort to shore up the sagging job market. But with inflation still elevated, the Fed opted to hold its benchmark rate steady earlier this week. Warsh will likely face questions during his confirmation hearing about whether he'll exercise independent judgment or simply do the president's bidding. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
U.S. stocks are trading lower this hour. The Dow's now down 420 points. You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. With freezing temperatures forecast this weekend, the city of Houston will be opening 12 warming centers at 5 p.m. this afternoon. You can find those locations at houstonem.org. Another body has been found in a Houston area bayou, bringing the total to 2 this month. News 88.7's Matt Harrop has the latest.
According to Sheriff Ed Gonzalez, the body was located in Spring off the North Freeway around 6:30 last night. Harris County Sheriff's report it was in the water. They did not specify if it was in Cypress Creek or not. Circumstances surrounding the death are unknown at this time. Last year, 33 bodies were recovered from bayous across the region, including 4 in a 15-day stretch.
Tomorrow is Election Day in the special election runoff for Texas Congressional District 18 in Houston. News 88.7 political reporter Andrew Schneider has the details about the contest.
As of Saturday, Texas 18th Congressional District will have been vacant for 332 days since the death of Congressman Sylvester Turner. The runoff election pits two Democrats against each other, former Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee and former Houston City Council member Amanda Edwards. There will be more than 60 voting centers operating around the county. The voting center locations are available at harrisvotes.com.
Taking a look at sports, the Rockets got back on track with a 104-86 victory last night. Houston was coming off a loss to the San Antonio Spurs the last time they were on the floor. Houston takes on the Dallas Mavericks at 7:30 tomorrow night at the Toyota Center. Checking your weather, mostly cloudy with cold, gusty winds, a high of 55 expected. Mostly cloudy tonight, clearing later on with a low of 34. On Saturday, sunny, windy, a high of 45. Right now, overcast and 46 degrees on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher is committed to helping clients stay on track to reach their financial goals and enjoy a comfortable retirement. FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Good morning.
Hello there, Houston.
We got to put the city map. The city shot.
Yeah, behind us. Well, it's funny. I was just saying a moment ago how much I love it when you're not here. Not that I love it when you're not here, but I always put Celeste on the spot. And I'm like, Celeste, what's the weather outside? And I just want her to say, nice. Right, but she always tries and gives me a weather report, so I appreciate that too.
Yeah, you want the weather going out your window.
Not just give you, Ernie, the weather report, but all of the people listening or watching on YouTube. We want to thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston. Today is January 30th. We are winding down to our last couple days in January of 2026.
The first month almost gone.
All gone. We had a winter storm.
Yeah. I guess some people did
dry
January.
January.
No. We had a winter storm earlier this week. Doesn't it seem like it was forever ago?
Right. Today is January 345 day into January.
Yeah, and now a little brother of that storm snuck in, and it's cold out there.
But it's nice. It's
nice
crispy.
Cold.
It's a
it's
nice
not
cold.
That damp cold.
That's true.
So
but it's going to get really chilly. Tomorrow highs only in the 40s. Lows overnight tonight, mid-30s. And then Sunday morning, because the winds will calm down, we're looking for 26, 27.
So are we on freeze alert overnight Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get out of this for a while. And maybe we're just done with the cold weather. A lot of times that happens. We get that really big, cool down in January, and then February we're on to spring.
Yeah. Well, I'm still waiting for some snow.
But what year was it, Frank, when we had the big snowstorm where we lost our 2021?
2021.
That happened in February, though.
It did. It happened on Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day in February 2021.
Yeah.
So do you think because we already had this major cold come through that we're not going to be seeing it again?
Well, you tend to see these climate patterns. It doesn't mean that it's completely over. And listen, some people say until spring, don't take the plants back outside because you could have something all the way up to Easter, maybe.
Right.
I think April 10th is our all-time record for a freeze in Houston. So it can happen.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen of the patterns over the last several years, we kind of get it all at once, and we don't really see it again. Doesn't mean we can't drop back down into the 30s, but any kind of real news breaking, let's stop school and all that, that's usually not what we see a second time.
Feels like that's very Houston of us. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off, get it over with.
But talking about plants, I got a holiday plant question. So I've got a big poinsettia. The holidays are over. What do I do with it?
Keep
you know what?
Keep it alive.
Can I
we
put
give
it
ours
outside?
away to people that want them. Some people actually plant them and keep them going.
Oh, well, if somebody wants my giant poinsettia, let us know, because plants come to my house to die, and for some reason this one has stayed alive. So I want to give it hope for a future. So if anybody wants it, let us know. Anyway, last night I got to go and do the talk back from Water for Elephants.
How was that?
You know, it was great. They had a good turnout of company members joined us for the talkback. Sometimes you get behind the scenes folks and not so many of the actors. We had 6 of the actors up on stage, and I think the audience really likes it because they know what the actors did. They just saw them work. But the reason I bring it up is we had Zachary on the show earlier this week, who's the lead in the show. We saw him. He was on our screen here, but he wasn't in studio live. When I met him, he was so tall. I was not expecting that. He looked like a normal height person, one of us. He was up there. I was really shocked. And that made me think, wow, everyone in the cast must be really tall, because on stage he didn't read really tall.
Thank you for including me as a normal person and one of y'all.
Oh, well, yes.
I'm very petite.
Yes,
because you really, in real life, without your heels, are what, about 4'11"?
I'm 4'11" and a half.
4'11" and a half.
I am 5 feet tall. Flat.
Well, I'm 5'11" and a half.
Yeah,
so
right.
I am, truly.
And I claim to just be 5'9". Just no half, just there. Yeah. Anyway, so we've got our weather. We know that tomorrow, and that's important too, because there is a special election going on. So weather always plays a part in that. So it seems like it'll be okay, comfortable enough to get out there and vote.
Right. The clouds we're seeing will give way to sunshine. We're going to have a sunny weekend. There's a look behind us right now.
There we got our cityscape.
A little bit of cloud cover has been hanging out there, but it's going to go sunny as we move into Saturday and Sunday. Just a cold, crisp weekend.
Well, good, because Teneshia Hudspeth will be here in a bit to tell you all the ins and outs of voting in the Texas 18th Special Congressional District election. And also, as a service to you, we had both of the final candidates on our show over the past few weeks. So we're going to be rerunning those interviews. So you'll hear from Amanda Edwards and Christian Menefee, and hopefully that'll make you a better informed voter when you go to vote. That being said, though, it's time to move into those headlines. Celeste, what do you have for us?
Tom Homan, the White House Border Czar, says the federal government is considering scaling back immigration enforcement operations in Minnesota. Homan made the announcement Thursday, days after arriving in the state, to oversee Operation Metro Surge, a large-scale crackdown that brought thousands of federal agents to the region. The operation has drawn criticism for aggressive enforcement tactics, including arrest of people without criminal records, and has been linked to the deaths of 2 U.S. citizens, Renee Macklin Good and Alex Preddy. Homan said any reduction in federal agents would depend on cooperation from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. He said federal authorities want greater access to undocumented immigrants held in state prisons and county jails. Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. When you hear the federal immigration enforcement in Minnesota could be scaled back, what goes through your mind? You can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870.
Seems like the only way to do it is to move people out of there and tell ICE that their presence is too strong. Mm-hmm. And maybe is there just a more cut and dry way that we can find people that are undocumented and put them before a judge and make a determination as to whether they should be here or not. Mm-hmm. And then you make that determination, and ICE is standing by to take them comfortably to a detention center and then removing them from the country.
Yeah. Well, I think that the issue here is that even people that supported immigration policy and stronger immigration policy and voted for President Trump, I think they are seeing what was happening and saying, well, wait a minute, you're not going after criminals the way you said you were going to be going after criminals. We're seeing that this is escalated. And so I think what Tom Homan is trying to do is essentially say, well, that is why we have to have cooperation from the local authorities to hand over the immigration status of jails and prisons.
Well, it just seems to me that this whole outfit has just been cruel, and I don't buy into cruel ever. And there's a better way to go about what they are trying to accomplish.
Yeah. I think I'm looking at it a little different. I mean, I agree with what you folks are saying. I'm looking at it a little different. I'm looking at it as a good sign that people's voices in a way were heard, that something shifted up at the federal level, that there was a replacement, a movement of who was where, and that of course, the proof will be in the pudding. What really actually happens? Is it just more rhetoric, or are we going to see a change? But the idea that something shifted when the stance had been so firm before that I think maybe a slight thawing of policy might be happening, but time will tell.
I would say, for me, when I look at this and hearing what you're saying, it was less about the voices and it was more about the undeniable video footage.
Right.
And it was that there was no denying what people were seeing with their eyes.
Right.
And when it wasn't adding up, what the Department of Homeland Security was saying essentially in their official statements versus what the videos were showing,
right.
People, something had to be done.
Right. And I'm saying because of that, the people were outraged and were speaking out. As they have been, finally, those voices were being heard.
Well,
we have seen other footage where they describe something that happens and we see the footage and it doesn't match and they just keep moving on. January 6th is a perfect example. People did say that is not a peaceful protest. We can talk about motivations, we can talk about instigators, we can talk about all that, but what you're seeing is not a peaceful protest of loving people coming for a tour of the Capitol. But they kept pushing that narrative out there. And so
I also think that there were, right, and I think that using the comparison with January 6th, though, the difference here is that there were different accounts about, and there was questions about who was supposed to be calling in law enforcement. You know, was it Nancy Pelosi? Did she say no, hold off? There were a lot of different facets, accounts. It was very politically charged. What is happening in Minneapolis was very black and white, I think, for many people. There was not as many different accounts. There was video from different angles. And I think most people said, okay, yes, we can all agree people should not be getting involved in between law enforcement. However, when somebody dies at the hands of law enforcement, we need to understand what happened.
Especially the second death of Alex Pretty. The first of Renee Good, rest in peace, was awful. But there was a little bit of, well, did she hit the gas? And you don't really, you can see Alex Pretty was just trying to video with his phone. Mm-hmm. It just became much more clear. You know, one death like that, we'll just, I guess, have to let it be investigated. A second death, that I think was the straw that absolutely said, okay, something has to change here.
My British computer guy says, all I can say is thank heavens for personal video recording devices. That has made a big difference in how
everything.
We cover and look at the world.
Look at the whole George Floyd event. Yeah.
Without that.
We have some calls.
And again, 713-440-8870. Let's go to Anthony from West University. Anthony, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
What's on your mind, Anthony?
I was just calling to let you know. I mean, I do appreciate your programming, listen to it regularly, but it seems to me as an independent that you do only present a story from one side of the aisle to the expense of the independents and moderate Republicans all over the five-county area. For instance, I mean, it'd be great to have a law enforcement person come in and say, hey, these are both tragic incidents in Minneapolis. But according to our training or common training, this is what happened. And additionally, like if you have thousands of interactions between police and public, eventually you will have unfortunate incidents like those that happened. Like if we have 300 million or say 30 million confrontations between between law enforcement and the public in the United States, it is amazing that there are as few shootings as there are, but all of them are tragic. But if you have that many interactions, you're going to have bad things happen. So my 2 cents is just please present a more neutral storyline.
Well, where's your middle ground? Where's your middle ground on Alex Pretty being shot 9 times?
Okay, for instance, we don't know if he was grabbing for a policeman's gun. And policemen are not trained to shoot to incapacitate somebody. If a gun is pulled and the trigger is pulled, they're shooting to kill not to incapacitate. That's training nationwide. Cops are not trained to shoot somebody in the leg to incapacitate them. If the gun is out, it is to use deadly force.
Well, Anthony, I appreciate your calling in. I do want to point out, though, that we have, and I understand, not everyone hears us every day. We know what we say. We're here every day. We did talk about the fact that for the sheer number of encounters, we only have seen a few in respect to how many encounters happen. So we have actually talked about that on the show. And from Frank's point of view, also, we're looking at, we saw video, that shows it from multiple different points of view. I think all would be better served if there was an open investigation of what happened and we could all be shared, hear the same information at the same time from the same sources and compare that with what we're seeing video-wise. But I think we do try to balance these out as much as
absolutely.
That's part of the problem is all we have really is the video and a dead person. Right. We don't know who shot him exactly. We don't know what kind of training they have had exactly. All the details of a report and an investigation are not being shared with the public. The only thing we have is this video. And when you look at it, I think the majority of people say that's not the way this should be handled.
Yeah. And we also did talk yesterday, I think it was on the air, Celeste and I, about the fact we only see a few moments of these encounters. And to get a fuller picture, you need to see what led up to things and what happened before. And we saw that with the Alex Preddy, that it started with just that instant, and now minutes before have come out, and you've seen more of what was happening beforehand. And at some point, we as thinking, thoughtful beings start trying to analyze and see what we see and understand what we've seen. But I appreciate, Anthony, your calling and reminding us that all stories have multiple sides to it, and we try and do that here every day.
I also think it's difficult, right, when you're looking at something like this to stay neutral in that we hear words like domestic terrorist. We hear words that are very extreme coming from this administration. So when you say that and when you think about that, domestic terrorist, and you go and you look at what happened, it's hard to reconcile two things that seem very far from neutral.
Right. Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Chris is on the line from Cyprus. Hi, Chris. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi, guys. Thank you for taking my call. One thing I want to encourage Anthony to do is keep on listening in various sources and get information. But Judge Judy had a famous quote, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. Right. What we see with our own eyes and with the technology that's out there, if he even has a gun and it's an open carry state, you don't just start taking it out, shooting it, and just yell, and have it, any kind of way. With that many people there, not being able to contain one individual. You look at experience, people that are in law enforcement, looking at that video, critiquing it, giving us their professional years of experience, saying everything that they see is wrong and pointing that out. You can't tell me that this person is a professional agitator or they're a domestic terrorist or anything else. I mean, we at some point, just have to get beyond the gaslighting and make sure that, what we see is we're not crazy and we're not stupid.
Thank you, Chris.
Chris, thanks for calling. 713-440-8870. Let's grab Ted from Westbury. Ted, what's on your mind?
Good morning. Thank you very much for taking my call. I would like to offer an idea that would put an end to all of these troubles, and I wonder what you think of it, and that is that anybody who comes to this country and says they want to become a citizen should be put in line to take the instruction, take the test, and become an American citizen. We shouldn't deny people the right to live in this country if that's what they want to do. We say we're a free country, and then we put all these restrictions on people. I think my grandparents, when they came here in the early 1900s, I don't know what they had to go through, but I think we added many, many people to the citizenry of this country around that time. And now we're restricting people, and I think that's the key part of the problem. And right now, if you have to go to a judge to ask the judge if you can become a citizen, there aren't that many judges. I mean, we're talking millions of people who want to live in this country and who supposedly are illegally here right now. That's, Frank, I think your approach is great when you say you want to be nice to people. Well, I'm offering an idea that I think would epitomize that. I'm wondering what you think.
Well, as long as they don't have a record. I don't want criminals coming to the country.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I'll say, just because we're tight on time, thank you, Ted, for calling with those thoughts. And I think we can all agree immigration reform is something we need to look at in this country, how we do it and how we treat it, and that there are lots of different options out there on the table. And I think we would all agree we don't want to see violence in our streets the way we're seeing it. Merge that together however you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll revisit our interview with District 18 congressional candidate Amanda Edwards ahead of tomorrow's special election. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Lenny Ambrose from St. Arnold Brewing Company, proud supporters of Houston Public Media. Right now, with your $60 donation, you can choose tickets to News and Brews. This member-exclusive event takes place February 17th. Enjoy a pint, connect with fellow NPR fans, and meet the Houston Public Media newsroom in person. Select News and Brews tickets when you donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Each week, we will explore stories that shape athletes and fans alike. Join me Sundays at 5 p.m. on News 88.7 for in-depth conversations with people across the world of sports, from the star who hits the game winner to the millions of us whose lives are touched by the game, covering everything from elite competition to the personal stories behind the games. Sports in America, Sundays at 5 on News 88.7.
As extreme cold hits the U.S., natural gas prices spike by as much as 60%. But geothermal heating is steady as a rock.
Their buildings use 1/4 the amount of energy for heating and cooling as the average office building, and they trust their system.
I'm Jenny Doring, saving money with geothermal. Next time on Living on Earth from PRX.
You can listen tomorrow night at 10 o'clock.
Listen here for a bonus hour, remembering Grateful Dead co-founder Bob Weir. Deeper track performances and more comments from Grateful Dead historian David Gans.
I did my first interview with Bob while he was working on his second solo album. So we stayed in touch and I started hanging out with him and even did a couple of double dates in the early 80s.
I need a miracle every day.
Bob Weir Remembered, Hour 2, right here real soon. Saturday evening at 7 on News 88.7.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Tomorrow is Election Day for the 18th Congressional District to pick our U.S. House representative to finishing off the term of the late Sylvester Turner. On today's program, we're revisiting our interviews with the two runoff candidates vying for this important seat. First off, our conversation with Amanda Edwards, recorded back on November 6th of last year. In the next hour, we will play our conversations with Christian Menefee. And here now, Amanda Edwards on Hello Houston.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm happy to be here.
If folks have questions, comments, concerns they want to share with us, 713-440-8870. My first question to you is, well, first of all, congratulations on making that to the runoff. But there had to be a part of you that thought, oh, God, here we go again, another campaign. It's been a crazy season. And even if you get in office, it's still a crazy season to come ahead of it.
The best way to describe it is it's been wild. But, we're super grateful, notwithstanding, because of the fact that this is an opportunity to serve such incredible people in a seat that has such rich history, having been served by Barbara Jordan and Mickey Leland and Craig Washington, Sheila Jackson Lee and Sylvester Turner. And now, of course, for its voice to have been silenced for such a long time. If you do the math of when Congresswoman got sick and then passed away, Congressman Turner passing away, the delay in the special election, and now there's going to be a delay in the runoff election. Yeah. We're talking about 18 months with no vote, no voice, nobody advocate on your behalf for federal funding or otherwise. I mean, there's just so much that's missing. And you had such a rich, storied history of representation in this district. And then for it to be silenced in the way that it has just been really, really, I think, a negative on this community. And so they're excited to get their voice back.
There is one point of clarification I want to put in that, and correct me if I'm wrong
Sure.
here, but the local office has remained open and has continued to process things for people in the 18th. They just have had no representation in Washington.
Correct. So what happens is when you have a member to pass away in the seat, you still continue to have that office remain open with staff only. Staff can deal with things like constituent response questions, issues with a passport, things like that, right? You'd call the congressional office for. But the staff can assist when it comes to securing federal grant dollars. Even if it were sitting on the desk of the congressional member when they passed, it doesn't matter. Those things cannot be facilitated by staff, cannot vote, cannot go to the floor, cannot do the advocacy work. So they do keep them kind of very narrowly focused on constituent response. You will see members of the office occasionally going to certain community events, participating in health fairs or things like that, those sorts of things, but not the advocacy, not the ability to secure federal funding, not the ability to really move the needle from a policy perspective at all.
So you could give me a ticket to the big beautiful ballroom one day.
No, I thought you were going to bring up the big beautiful bill, because because they delayed calling this special election. That big beautiful bill passed by just one vote.
And because
I could have blocked it.
And because Mike Johnson won't swear in the Arizona Congresswoman, no Epstein files.
We have just gotten to a space and time where there is just no limits in terms of just boundaries of what is appropriate and inappropriate and abuse of power. We're just seeing this all be upended in just a very quick period of time. This is something we've got to address.
And I want to ask how you're going to address it, but we got to get you there first.
That's right.
All right, Christian Menefee is a formidable person. I mean, he has a lot of experience and name recognition, and we were talking to him yesterday. So one of the other of you has got to get Jolanda Jones voters, along with other voters, to come into your camp. But your platforms and your concern over issues are pretty similar. So what makes you different than Chris?
I have the experience and the track record in terms of what needs to be done in the community, whether that is your ability to drive in Northeast Houston and see some of the housing I've helped to rebuild, or go down the street and drive over to the Innovation District or ION, which is also a direct product of our work when I was on City Council and started the Technology and Innovation Task Force for the city. One of the things I think is important for people is that they not only see you, but they also know that you will be able to deliver results. And I've got a long track record. I've been around a long while serving this community in various ways, not just as an elected, but also with my nonprofit and just doing the work of the community. And so we consider ourselves to be the people's candidate because we truly are being propelled forward by the community. I'm not the establishment candidate in this race by no means. My line of trust and who I am accountable to extends directly to the community. Nobody else is in line. Nobody else, do I have an allegiance to other than the community members that I'm going to be elected to serve.
And I'm assuming that some of that answer fits this question, too. It was a crowded field of 16 candidates. Why do you think you stood out? There were big names on that ballot, too, that were easily recognizable by people. What rose you to the top?
Absolutely. The community members know me from my work. Yeah. So they don't have to guess what is it going to be like to work with her. Is she going to be good at constituent response? I was excellent at constituent response as a city council member. They know that question and answer. We've answered it. They don't have to ask what it would be like when it comes to being able to see her start and finish a project. We've done many, many projects, efforts that I've led, tech and innovation, small business support for women and minority small business owners. I can go down a very, very long list of the things that we've done in the community alongside them. That's the other piece I think I bring to the table, a community-based orientation. I understand that this district is not just a district, but instead it is a series of communities, neighborhoods, residents, families, all of which have to work together in order to get their needs met. And my goal and my mission is to create an 18th congressional district in a broader Houston area, in a broader nation, in which everybody, no matter what their background, no matter where they live, has the opportunity to thrive. And that means focusing on healthcare access and making sure that it's affordable and that we're expanding coverage rather than removing it. That means when it comes to education, making sure that our education system is supported adequately from a public education perspective. That means when it comes to economic opportunity, there's so many people right now that are frightened out of their minds about how they're going to make ends meet. I literally was passing out fruit on Saturday because of people's fears of what was going to happen with SNAP. And, we passed this big, beautiful bill that we already talked about. That's $900 billion in Medicaid cuts, $300 billion in SNAP cuts. And what that will also have the effect of doing is really destabilizing the 18th congressional district because there's such a disproportionate amount of people, a higher number of people, that are consuming those benefits. And so that's going to be deeply problematic for the district. And so I think the people want somebody they know, where they've kicked the tires, they know what they're about, what they can deliver, and also somebody that can restore confidence that it does make a difference if you vote or not. With me, I showed up on the doorsteps when Harvey happened. I was part of that rebuilding process for them. I didn't go away just because the cameras did. And that's what sticks with people is who's here with us, for us, alongside us that we can trust and will help make sure that we get the results we deserve.
Any thoughts about transportation in this town?
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Yes, that was an alley-oop. I'm really passionate about transportation. When I was on city council, I got appointed to serve on the HGAC's Transportation Policy Committee Council, which is the TPC, they call it. And each region, ours was an 8-county region, Houston-Galveston area, has one of these that help to get federal dollars to transportation projects. And so these entities exist. Most people don't know that MPOs exist. They do. And ours is called the TPC. So I was on that board. While I was on that board, one of the stats that came up was the fact that we were anticipating growth of 4.2 million people by 2045. So basically now in the next 20 years, we're going to have all of this growth in our 8-county region. But the question is, what are we doing to prepare for that growth so that we're ready? And so we're not having a crisis like LA did, where people were unable to get from one part of town to the next because of the gridlock, because they had not adequately prepared. And so I started the High Capacity Transit Task Force, and we came together with various transportation agencies and came together with a plan on how to try to start making more investment in high capacity transit options for our region, because I believe that we need multimodal transit options. We need it to be grade separated. I know these are things that are going to get me in trouble with some people, but it's important that you have various ways that people can get to and from their workplace, to and from places of entertainment, to and from their home. That impacts the economy. When we made the business case, we made a cost-benefit analysis. What is it costing Houston not to do that? What is it costing us not to invest in don't just look at what smart cities do or good cities do. Let's not use those types of phrases. Let's just look at what makes sense financially, and it makes sense to invest in your multimodal transit options so people can get to where they need to go and be productive in their community.
We're talking with Amanda Edwards, who is in the runoff for the 18th Congressional District against Chris Menefee. If you have a question for Ms. Edwards, 713-440-8870. We do have this newsroom question from our newsroom here. Supposedly, there is a very real chance that Congressman Al Green will enter the Democratic primary for the 18th Congressional District. Talk about formidable. How concerned are you about facing such a primary if you do win the runoff?
We have to do one thing at a time.
Right.
So there is no announcement today about anything happening in the midterm election. I'm focused on the next few months. First of all, we got to get this special election even with a date.
Sure.
So we got to get a date on this thing. But I'm focusing on making sure that the voters hear from me during this period of time and know that I am the person that should be elected to serve as their next congresswoman. This is to serve the unexpired portion of the term that was being served by Sylvester Turner. So it's only going to be about a year. But we got to focus on that year because we got some time to make up for. And
just to
we've
clarify
Sure.
so people understand
Yes.
this question and
Sure.
why it comes up. So if the runoff will probably be mid-January.
Yes.
But by March, it's starting because you're just filling a term remaining. By March, it's already the primary for the next go-round. So
Yep.
it'll be from campaign to campaign, and then in November, that election. And it's still up in the air what that district would be because of the map question that's going on.
And
so
it's
all
in
of
court.
this is at play.
Mhm.
So that's why it's such a truncated period of time. But if you get in, you do have till the remainder of the year in office.
That's correct. You have until the remainder of 2026 in office and to serve the community. And that's where we're focusing our attention at this time. Yes, there will be a midterm without question, and it will happen immediately after the special election runoff has concluded. And but we want to focus our attention right now at the immediate election at hand, which is the runoff.
So we had a listener say, how in the world did Congress get in this position where they are so afraid to speak up against the president? Are they afraid of losing their jobs, their power? What's your answer to that? How did we get in this situation?
I don't know how we got in the position, but I'm going to tell you what I can do about it. And we've got to put people in who are going to come in with a fresh approach, some innovative solutions, but also an ability to stand up for what's right. And what's happening right now is not right. I've never in my lifetime seen a president that has fought against the rule of law, that has fought against healthcare access, education, economic stability, and the way that our president currently has been fighting. And what we need is someone who not only can come in and have a voice and fight back verbally, but you need someone who will also be able to come in with a plan. We right now do not look like we have a strategy for how to play defense in an environment like this. And we've got to, fix that. When I was growing up, I played sports and you had to play offense and defense. You didn't get to sit on the bench when it was time to play defense. That's when you were on your toes. That's when you were the most nimble. That was when you were the quickest because that's what defense requires. And so we got to think strategically about how do we get ourselves in a position where we can still move the needle forward, even though he's able to set the agenda. That happens all the time. Look back. Civil rights movement. They were not in power the entirety of the civil rights movement. You can't just believe that you have no work to do when you're not in power. That's where the real work begins. That's the hard work. And so in that case, they had a clarity of mission and purpose. They knew exactly what they were trying to achieve in terms of equity and equality. And they also had a strategy when it came to litigation. They also had a strategy when it came to activism. They had a strategy when it came to legislation. So when they finally got to a point where they had enough votes, they were ready, locked and loaded to get this stuff passed.
And they didn't have PR the way we have it now. They didn't have social media.
No.
Think if they had the power of Instagram and Facebook and social media.
But there was a shared sacrifice. Everybody wanted to achieve the same goal. They had a clarity of purpose. They had a clarity of mission. They knew they wanted to change their life circumstances because what was happening to them was not right. And so people were willing to make the sacrifices, but they were also being clearly, and it was shared with them what that was about. We weren't telling people to boycott just to boycott. They knew why they were boycotting. They knew what one action would do in terms of having an impact on the broader movement. Everybody bought into the movement.
Did you feel a little bit of a boost from all the election results across the country?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it looks like these midterms are going to be an interesting time for Democrats. I think, seeing some wins get put on the board in a year where it's been hit after hit after hit, I think you need to see that. And I think that's been very good in terms of getting that energy up getting people's attention that this election, midterms, everything is your life and your future is at stake with this thing. So we got to go out there, show out, turn out and vote, and really make our voices heard.
The turnout for an off-year election is already small.
Yeah.
The turnout for a runoff election is small. They've split this because you've got the city council runoff one and yours also.
Yes.
Is the key to winning turnout?
Yes. I mean, you got to turn your voters back out, right? You've got to turn your base back out. That's key. The worst thing you can have is, I remember when I was running for city council for the first time and I was in a runoff, and I'd call my supporters and say to them, thank you for your support. Looking forward to seeing you on December, whatever the runoff date was. And they'd say to me, well, we thought you already won. And I was like, no.
Well, you are here to let them know today.
Yes, we did not already win. We are in a runoff. We need you to come back and vote. And
Amanda
that is
Edwards,
the key.
I have to thank you for coming
Of
in right
course.
now. Thank you so much. And we'll be watching very closely.
That was our conversation with Amanda Edwards. You'll hear our interview with Christian Menefee in our noon hour. Both interviews are available on our YouTube channel and online at hellohouston.org. Coming up, several of Texas's most congested roads are in Houston. But why? We find out next as Hello Houston continues.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
I'm Maria Hinojosa. This week on Latino USA, Colombian actresses Catalina Sandino Moreno, Sasha Calle, and Lina Esco star in the new crime thriller from Netflix, The Rip, alongside some of Hollywood's biggest names.
Ben Affleck got Matt Damon and Joe Carnahan. I mean, it's such a great group of people.
That's this week on Latino USA.
Sunday night at 7 p.m.
President Trump is shifting his tone on Minneapolis after another shooting by federal agents. The president and his Border Czar Tom Homan are signaling that de-escalation is underway, but can they relieve the tension the nation is feeling at a crucial moment for this presidency? We're going to dive into that question and a whole lot more. Hope you'll join me, David Green, also Mo Lathy and Will Swaim for the next Left, Right, and Center.
You can hear that Sunday at 5 p.m. Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, after a new episode of Party Politics at 8, enjoy an encore episode of Ken Burns' documentary series, The American Revolution, at 8:30. Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston system, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. Join the conversation. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Oh, how do you feel about Houston traffic?
Oh, it's great, isn't
it great? At least we can
flows,
count on it.
Flows smoothly, never in the way of anything.
A little challenging. If you've lived here more than a day, you no doubt have experienced more than your fair share of traffic jams or delays. Many Houstonians just deal with it on a daily basis. Back in November, the Texas A&M Transportation Institute released its Texas Top 100 Congested Road Segments list for 2025. Which measures traffic congestion and the frustration that travelers experience. The list that Harris County made up 7 of the top 10 most congested road segments. 7 of 10.
Wow.
I know. Of course, the West Loop 610,
No surprise.
It's kind of, I feel like that's my segment.
Yeah.
No surprise is once again topping the list. We were going to talk about that with one of the senior researchers at Texas A&M Transportation Institute, Dr. David Schrank, about this. We are hoping he'll show up shortly to discuss.
Right, and what's always really popular when we talk about it is traffic, and we know you have opinions, thoughts, comments on it, so give us a call. Join the conversation at 713-440-8870.
And there he is. Welcome, Dr. David Schrank, Senior Research Scientist at the Texas A&M Transportation Institute. Glad to have you here on Hello Houston. Well, of course, the subject we're talking about is one that just gives everybody a bad day, doesn't it?
Does it? I wouldn't think Houstonians would care much about traffic.
Oh yeah.
Well, Dr. Schrank, let me tell you, boy, do they.
You got to plan your day these days. And look at Waze and whatever app you have to try to tell what traffic is doing and decide when you're going to leave. And even Ubers, it'll say we'll be there in 1 minute, and it's another 8 because of traffic. So what did you, 7 out of 10, that's a lot, David. What's your take on all of this?
Well, this year, the rankings is first time that a city in Houston in Texas has had this many segments in the top 10. It's usually split pretty evenly between, the Metroplex and Houston. But what you're experiencing here, you got a region with, about 7 million people. You have a Port of Houston. You also have Freeport. You have a lot of economic engine in Southeast Texas. There's a lot of things happening. Not only, the 7 million, but it seems like every year another 100, 200,000 are showing up in the Houston area. And so you remember that not only those are work trips coming, but those are also plumbers and loaves of bread and shoes and everything else that have to come to Houston to support those new Texans. And so one of our issues across Texas is growth. 500,000, 700,000 people a year coming to Texas. And it's hard to, catch up, stay ahead when you have that kind of growth. And what we're seeing in the Houston roads is just that. And then you throw in the dreaded orange barrel that we have on almost every road of any consequence in Texas. And so, NHHIP, the big construction project that's going to take a long time, is beginning to get underway. And so orange barrels are going to be around for a while.
I would think, though, people would argue until this report, which would be basically that, all major cities have their problems, but ours, obviously, we make this list with 7 out of 10, have bigger problems. My question is, why? Other cities experience growth. Other cities have major metropolitan areas. Is it the lack of having one centralized business district? Is it what leads us to this particular conundrum?
Well, this is going to take longer than a 15-minute segment. However, you hit on some of the things. Houston has a lot of activity centers spread around the region. And so it's hard to create things like, rail or other things that serve those, because how do you connect? What do you connect? The rail line that runs from downtown to the medical center and such, that tied some of those together, but how do you do other things? So we rely heavily on our road system to get us where we need to go. And that's not untrue of the Sun Belt and Western cities that sort of grew up after, World War II. And so the road system is key. In a place like Houston, one of the problems you run into, and this is not, every city has this. If you have construction on this road, some of the motorists go over to this other road. And so it's more congested, and it's kind of a balancing act across the whole region. And so if you look at what's, what the tops, those 7 are in the top 10, they're all on 610 or inside. And so when any one of those road segments is under construction, I know part of Katy is right now, parts of, 69 and 10 near downtown are under construction. that makes it more difficult, not only in those segments, but everywhere else around there as people redistribute their trips. You mentioned earlier ways and planning your trip and things. Being as smart as you can about your travel will only help you. And there's not only those apps, but the TransStar Center and other like that are also trying to help you plan trips and try to avoid, if you can, some of the congestion.
But Dr. Schrank, it's interesting that you mentioned trying to avoid that congestion. Was there a specific time that your study focused on? Because what's always shocking to me as a person that has been living in Houston for the last 6 years is how no matter what time I seem to leave, there always seems to be some type of traffic, and it's not within that rush hour segment anymore.
That is definitely true. And that's something we've seen coming out of the pandemic. It's both a problem, but also maybe part of the solution. And that is that in addition to construction trying to, get the capacity out there that we need, we can also work on it from the demand side. And that is when we make our trips, because of hybrid work, what we're seeing is some of the peak spreading now. It's not everything happens in 2 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening, and it's just horrible. We're starting to see more at 9 or 10 in the morning and 2 and 3 in the afternoon. And that's likely due to the fact that we can do so much of our work on a computer now from a remote location. So I can answer emails, do some things at 8 in the morning, and then get on the road at 9 to go in for those meetings I have to have. And the same is kind of true in the afternoon. I try to do my meetings and get out before that rush. And I think so when you say I see congestion sort of at all hours of the day, it may not be what you see at 8 in the morning or 5 in the evening, but it is congestion. 45 or 50 miles an hour, not stop and go. And it's not what you used to see, but it is becoming sort of more prevalent. And I guess the point would be that if I can move at 50 miles an hour in congestion, I would take that over, stop and go conditions.
Yeah, I agree with you. We do have a call from David from Kingwood. I bet he's going to ask why Kingwood Drive isn't on this list, because that's one way in and one way out of Kingwood. David, what's on your mind?
So back, 30 years ago when I was in college, I had a Professor Pucher, Pucher. We were talking about congestion, and every time, and I'm curious if this is really true, every time a new road is built or expanded, it meets or exceeds capacity within 6 months. And I'll take your comments about that offline.
Dr. Schrank?
The 6 month thing, I'm not sure of, but eventually, or usually pretty quickly, probably is the answer. Because if you think about what's happening, we're usually chasing where we need to be building or adding to infrastructure because of funding and because of how long it takes to build things. And so that's not a surprising discussion. The Katy Freeway is a great example here, right? Everyone nationally picks on the Katy Freeway as, well, you don't want to do this. However, if you look at what the Katy Freeway is doing versus what it was doing before construction, it's carrying 50% or 60% more vehicles than it did before construction. And if you look at the travel times, they're actually at or slightly better than they were before construction. So we're moving all of those vehicles and we're doing it more efficiently than we did. And in the middle of the day, if you look back in the middle of the day before that construction versus now, the reliability has gone up. You're likely can get to Intercontinental Airport or Hobby Airport from Katy in a reliable trip in the middle of the day.
Yeah, well, God bless us all.
Dr. David Schrank is a senior research scientist at the Texas A&M Transportation Institute. David, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it.
Coming up, we'll continue discussing today's top stories. We'll also revisit our interview with Christian Menefee. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Theater Under the Stars and the Broadway musical $1 Million Quartet, featuring the music of Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Carl Perkins. February 17th through March 1st at the Hobby Center. Tickets at tuts.org.
Mostly cloudy today. You might see a little sunshine, the high getting up to near 53. And the clouds go away tonight, clearing off, a low 34. Tomorrow, a sunny day with a high getting up to near 44. It's overcast and 47, and this is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, Harris County Clerk Teneshia Hudspeth will join us to tell us what we need to know about the 18th Congressional District special election and upcoming primaries. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We'll also revisit our interview with District 18 congressional candidate Christian Menefee ahead of tomorrow's special election.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. Plus, we'll also share a list of events happening this weekend in Houston for our regular Friday feature Last Minute Plans.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The Department of Justice is releasing a final massive tranche of materials, including videos and images related to the criminal investigation and death by suicide of the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, in compliance with a law Congress passed last November. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche says the DOJ has redacted the images of females with the exception of imprisoned Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell. Blanche pushed back at accusations that the DOJ is shielding President Trump.
We did not protect President Trump. We didn't protect or not protect anybody. I mean, I think that there's a hunger or a thirst for information that I do not think will be satisfied by the review of these documents.
Trump has said he severed ties with Epstein after the financier poached female Mar-a-Lago resort employees. He denies any knowledge of Epstein's sexual abuse crimes or alleged trafficking of women and minors. In the week since Border Patrol officers killed Alex Pretty, a Veterans Affairs ICU nurse, vigils across the country have celebrated Pretty's work and denounced ICE tactics. NPR's Quill Lawrence has more.
Renee good. Renee good. Thousands gathered outside the Manhattan VA hospital, filling the sidewalk between massive snowbanks. Hundreds of Freddie's colleagues at the Minneapolis VA held a memorial earlier this week, despite an email from that VA's director saying she had been told to postpone it. At the New York City vigil, a VA nurses union official asked not to be named for fear of retaliation.
He wasn't even trying to fight back, and the way they brutally murdered him is just... It makes me so angry and upset, and that's what brought me out here today, because it could have been any of us.
The Trump administration has blamed Pretty's death on Minnesota officials for failing to cooperate with ICE. Quill Lawrence, NPR News.
Russia confirms it has agreed to President Trump's calls for a pause on attacks against major Ukrainian cities amid a severe cold snap, yet there seems to be a discrepancy over the length of the truce. Here's NPR's Charles Baines.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed Trump made a personal appeal to Russian President Vladimir Putin to halt attacks in order to create favorable conditions for negotiations. But Peskov seemed to contradict Trump's claims he secured a week-long pause in Russia's bombing campaign, saying Moscow would hold its fire only until February 1st, this Sunday. That stoppage appeared timed to another round of U.S.-sponsored peace talks between Ukraine and Russia Russia scheduled in the Middle East this weekend. Those negotiations are expected to center on a White House peace plan that would see Ukraine cede territory to Russia, including areas not currently controlled by Moscow, in exchange for U.S.-backed security guarantees. Charles Maines, NPR News.
U.S. stocks are trading lower this hour. The Dow's now down 458 points. You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. Houston area Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher says she has voted against all funding bills considered so far this year by Congress. That includes new spending bills under consideration to avoid an upcoming government shutdown. She spoke to Houston Matters this morning about why.
I am deeply concerned about what is happening in our country right now, and we have seen it playing out in front of our eyes, the lawlessness with which this administration is proceeding in every facet of our lives. And I think it's really important for Congress to assert itself.
She says the bills are a step in the right direction in ensuring accountability while continuing some government operations. Having said that, a partial government shutdown is on track for this weekend, given the friction in Congress over spending. Teachers and students rallied last night on Texas A&M's campus in College Station to protest a new ban prohibiting lessons on race and gender. The policy implemented in December kicked off an audit of classes and included canceling an ethics course whose professor, Dr. Leonard Bright, was told to remove Plato readings related to race and gender. Professor Martin Peterson at the rally noted the irony.
No one can reasonably say that the philosophy professor shouldn't get to teach Plato in a philosophy class.
The protest is part of an ongoing debate about censorship in the classroom, first ignited in September when the school fired a professor for discussing gender identity in her classroom. In sports, the Rockets down the Hawks 104-86 in Atlanta last night. Houston will host the Dallas Mavericks at 7:30 tomorrow night at Toyota Center. Checking your weather, mostly cloudy with cold, gusty winds, a high of 55 today. Mostly cloudy tonight, clearing later on with a low of 34. Saturday, sunny, windy with a high of 51. Right now, overcast 46 degrees on the UH campus.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses from retailers to tradespeople. Progressive covers a variety of business needs with a range of coverages. More at progressivecommercial.com.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to the second hour of Hello Houston.
Hello, Houston.
Hello, Frank.
Houston.
Hello, Ernie.
Hello, Celeste. And Frank, too. If you were listening in the first hour, you heard our conversation with Amanda Edwards, who is running in the runoff for the 18th Congressional District. And Christian Menefee will air that interview in this hour, so you get to hear from both candidates. Fair time, equal play. There you go. And if you missed one or the other, go over to our YouTube channel. You can find them both there, and you can learn about the candidates before you vote.
And this is a special runoff. There's nothing else to vote for, correct?
Well, I think for the most part, there may be something else tucked in there. I'm seeing a nodding head from our next guest, so maybe we'll find out that answer. I think it depends what districts you live in and stuff, what areas, regions. There may be something else.
Well, if you're not represented in the 18th, you don't go vote, right?
We'll find out shortly, I think.
There's so many questions.
We have so many questions. And that's right. Joining us now, Harris County Clerk Teneshia Hudspeth is going to answer all of our questions about this election and the upcoming primaries, as well as answer any of questions that you may have. You can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870. Teneshia, welcome back to Hello Houston. It's always great to have you on our show.
Thank you for having me on. You asked the magic question, who can vote tomorrow? Well, I'm here to tell you.
Yes. Well, tell us, who gets to vote tomorrow?
All right, so finally, Congressional District 18 gets to determine who will fill the current vacancy. It is the special runoff election. In November, there was about 16 candidates, 2 moved on to the runoff, and tomorrow's the last day and opportunity to do that. So if you live in Congressional District 18, those that are voting in this race are according to the old district lines. So if you were able to vote in November, you're able to vote in January. There are over 420,000 individuals registered to vote, and less than 20,000 have voted early in person or by mail. So if you live in Congressional District 18, or if you're not sure, you can simply go to harrisvotes.com, pull up the sample ballot to see if you have an election to vote in, or you can choose voter registration and look at that new line. So again, tomorrow, voters will determine who will fill the current vacancy. So that person will essentially, after the election is canvassed, take office immediately through the remainder of 2026.
And then, this is where it gets tricky, almost immediately we start again for the same district for their primary to find out who's going to run in November to then take the seat starting in 2027, correct?
You have it down. Actually, some voters are already voting by mail for those who qualify. So March 3rd is the primary, and in a couple of weeks, voters will be able to vote in person early, but many have already started voting by mail. And so CD 18, Congressional District 18, will be on the ballot yet again. This time, the lines have changed. As a matter of fact, 47% of Harris County are now redrawn into new district lines. Wow. So what voters will have to identify is if they're still in Congressional District 18 or if they're a new congressional district. So you will be voting in March to select a nominee for the November ballot. For that person, then whoever wins that race to fill the 2-year term in Congress, which will start in January of 2027. So there are 2 elections happening simultaneously at the same time, one to fill the current vacancy and one to fill the 2-year term vacancy starting next year.
Okay, so...
Or not the vacancy, fill the 2-year term, long term, sorry.
So Chris Menefee and Amanda Edwards, one of them wins tomorrow, right? And then...
That's right.
And then do they presumably have to run again March 3rd?
That's right.
Okay,
absolutely.
so have they filed? Because if they haven't won, how do they know whether they should file? Or did they file hoping they would win?
So the filing deadline for the March primary was in early December. So everyone who's filed to be on the ballot for March had to have filed in December. They both did file for Congressional District 18 for the March primary.
Optimistically.
So for the Democratic side, because remember, this is primary, so there are Democrats and Republicans that are vying for CD 18. And on the Democratic side, Christian Menefee and Amanda Edwards are on that ballot, including Al Green, because he was drawn out of his current district, Congressional District 9, is now voting for Congressional District 18. I know if you're listening and watching, you're saying this is really confusing, County Clerk. But what took place last fall was 2 special sessions, and during those sessions, the state of Texas redistricted 47% of Harris County, and so that's why it's a bit confusing, because typically mid-decade redistricting of this magnitude does not happen, and so if you're thinking once you vote tomorrow, right, that you're done, you're not, right, because in a couple of weeks you'll need to vote again. March 3rd. And whether you're still in the same district or not, you will have to do the research by checking your voter registration to see. Now, tomorrow is election day, so we'll know the overall results for early voting in person and for ballot by mail. But remember, an election is not official until we've received 6 to 10 days after, once we receive all possible military and overseas ballots. And in this case, we had extended early voting where 2 days of early voting, voters could only vote provisional. So those provisionals will have to be processed too and included in the final number.
Really quickly,
there are a lot of aspects to this election that's much different than what we typically see.
Frank had asked at the very top of this about, is there only this one race on the ballot? And even I'm a little bit confused by that, because I thought I may have seen a sign or a placard for something else that was happening tomorrow also. Where are we at with that?
Yeah, for Harris County, the only election we're conducting is the Congressional District 18 race. You are likely seeing a lot of announcements and postings for March primaries. Many candidates, many races are being advertised. Now, there is another special election in Tarrant County for a Senate district race. So you very well could have seen that. We were between Tarrant County and Harris County, we're the only ones running a special election on January 31st.
So presumably, Chris could beat Amanda tomorrow, and then Amanda could beat Chris in March.
Correct.
Good.
That absolutely could happen.
Because also they're shifting the district too, so
I
it's
know.
different
Or Al
voters.
Green might beat all of them. You never know.
So, Tanisha, my question then becomes, how does the Harris County Clerk's Office handle voter education and outreach, especially in underserved communities? And, during times when there's so much information and conflicting information and dates, how have y'all kind of revamped, or how are y'all handling this?
Yeah, so we are messaging like nobody's business. If you happen to go on any of our social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or X, you will see daily updates about this race and the things that voters need to know. We also provide everything on our websites and do public notices. We have press releases that go out. I do interviews. Many of our staff does interviews for different languages around Harris County. And we also put a great deal of dollars, county dollars, into billboards, PSAs, and radio ads to really get the messaging out to voters across Harris County. It is a very big district, right? Mm-hmm. The truth of the matter is, even with all that we do, which is above and beyond, outside of notices and what's required by law, it's a very big district, and it's really hard to get all the messaging out to the voters. But another indicator is Annette Ramirez, who's our voter registrar, will be sending new voter registration cards. And when those new voter registration cards hit the mailboxes of voters, that will be an indicator as well that their district has changed and there's an election election cycle that's coming up. So there are many ways that we communicate. We do lives on Facebook and many different platforms. We do lives on several of our social media. And I have a community voter outreach team that goes all over this county and has meetings from faith-based to community centers to every sector of Harris County that will allow us in. And we do presentations on the very thing that we're talking about. What election is happening now? Why is it happening? And where is it going? And so that outreach team has gone to hundreds of community events. When there's candidate forums, while we don't, get into the business of saying who to vote for a campaign, we have a table set up that has, here's what you need to know about the election or the facts or the laws of the election. And so our teams go out to events all over the county. So those are many ways that we get information to our out to voters about what's happening every election cycle.
I'm looking at our YouTube comments, and Midtown Mars says, how do I know if I'm in District 18?
Yes, simply go to harrisvotes.com and you can go and click the sample ballot tab. If the sample ballot tab, you'll click January 31st election, and then you'll put in your name and information. It will say you have an election to vote in or you don't. Or you can click on the voter registration tab and identify from that. But I say the best way to go is to Harris Votes and click sample ballot, and you'll put in your information. If you don't have an election, it will say no election, for you. If you do, it's going to show your sample ballot. So that's exactly how you know whether you're in CD18 according to the old lines to vote tomorrow.
And where can you go vote? What locations are open?
Yeah, so there's over 60 plus locations, vote centers open across the county. The 17 early voting remains open on election day. So over 60 plus locations around Harris County, and we vote countywide in Harris County. So you don't have to go to a certain area in your neighborhood. All this information is on harrisvotes.com. Vote centers tab. You can find the 5 closest located to you. Voting is from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Outside of the sample ballot as well, there's a great amount of election information for now, March, and future elections.
Really quickly.
And look, if you can't find it online, you can call our hotline at 713-755-6965.
Polls are only in Texas 18th District, or are they outside of the district?
They're inside and outside the district, right? Okay. With County 1, Yeah, with countywide, they're inside and out. Majority of them are going to be inside the district, obviously, but there are some on the outside of the district too, just to make sure that we're over allocating where voters could be throughout the county on a Saturday, right?
You know,
Good idea.
I have a question regarding going back to getting community engagement and the message out. How do you all measure success in regards to what percentage you know is actually getting the information?
Yeah, so when we do these public information campaigns, we work with the different individuals to get impressions back, like how much of this is reaching a certain age group or a certain demographic or a certain area in terms of social. How many is it reaching them in terms of print media? How much is reaching them in terms of other avenues? And we get that information back to kind of figure out where are voters looking for their information, for their news, and how do we continue to expand upon that, right? Mm-hmm. So while we go above and beyond as county election offices to provide that information, I think if you look throughout the state, you're going to say nobody's really doing it like Harris County is. We really rely on community groups and many different organizations like the League of Women Voters and a lot of other platforms and political parties that do some of the same work to get the word out for voters as well.
Teneshia, I'm sure you could answer this question in your sleep, but it's always important to remind people, what do they need to vote? What can they bring with them? What can't they bring with them? Give them the housekeeping of Election Day.
Yes. So Election Day, number one thing you need to know is whether you vote in CD 18 or not. If you're not sure, go to harrisvotes.com or call us on our hotline, 713-755-6965. Or in order to vote in Texas, in the state of Texas, there are 7 qualifying IDs. This is also on Harris Votes, everything from your driver's license to a Texas ID, election certificate card, birth record, U.S. passport, and handgun license. Make sure you have one of those qualifying IDs. You're in and out in no time. You can also take a sample ballot with you. Obviously, there are only 2 candidates in this race, so you'll want to do your research to find out who you believe is the best person to actually take this seat and to be voted into this seat to take to fill this vacancy. And again, finding the polling place closest to you. There are more than 60 locations to choose from. On Harris Votes, you can click the Vote Center tab and it'll let you know where you're at. Now, it's a Saturday election. It's going to be cold. I don't know that you're really going to have to use the wait time feature because I doubt there's going to be lines, but hey, why don't you come out and make some lines for us? Let's give election workers something. Okay?
Right. Teneshia, you mentioned something interesting to me that you said, Harris County does things differently. And I was curious, how much of that is because of the size Harris County is versus other counties in our state? And also the fact that Harris County always seems, when it comes to election, to be under a microscope at a state level.
Right. Yeah, well, even before we were under the level of microscope that we're under now, we've gone above and beyond. The sheer size of Harris County is 25 states combined. It is the 3rd largest county in the nation and the largest in the state of Texas. So for information to travel, we have to start our communication campaigns months to weeks in advance, right? And continue to be really proactive. But it all depends on who your county clerk is too. How proactive is that county clerk? How important it is for messaging to get out. And before I was elected county clerk, I was a staffer for 15 years that worked in elections in communications. So I understood how important it was and how, everybody didn't live in a political bubble and knew what was going on with elections, so that every year we do something bigger and greater to get voters to understand elections. And then look, we have a legislative session every other year that changes the aspect of voting, or somehow voters need to know what information. So those are all drivers, but those are some of the reasons why Harris County does it different. We're bigger, but I also believe it is who is in that seat. And I'm a county clerk that's not only proactive, but progressive in making sure that information travels to all voters, no matter how you choose to vote, right? And the more equipped voters are, the more equipped our election workers are, the more turnout you see, the more informed voters you have. But you know what? Being under the microscope obviously puts a certain level of pressure on you to make sure that, you're relaying information timely, efficiently, and that you're fair about how you do that. And so I believe that's what my leadership reflects. But more importantly, I think that's what the county reflects. We have a county that will show up, but they have to be informed about it. And you know what? The voters got to take some responsibility too, right? They have to want to be engaged. And in CD18, this district has gone underrepresented for almost a year. And so they need representation. They need someone who's in DC making sure that the dollars that need to make it here to Texas and Harris County happen sooner than later.
You mentioned, and Celeste brings up under the microscope, I'm curious if you expect any challenge or any complications by having the added extra days of early voting, or since it's within the same party and it's two Democratic candidates, that all this may just be quietly moved forward.
Well, you never know in elections. You never know what a candidate's take is or whether someone else's take is. The way that I look at it is we have to follow the election code and do the work. And so could there be a challenge? It very well could be. But the work that we do, we follow the law and we carry it out. So if someone wants to challenge it, one thing I will pride ourselves on is we're very transparent, right? If you want to send a poll watcher in on behalf of a candidate or campaign and you want them to observe certain parts of the election that the code allows for, then, transparency is the way to go. Could there be challenges? Maybe so, but in terms of the extended days, we followed the law. We made sure that those voters voted provisionally. That process will be handled properly and it will be included in the final count. So I think it's more about people understanding, how was this election different, where we had a winter storm in some days and then a court order in some extended days. So what happens when that goes on, right? And if you go to our platforms now, every single day, we've almost communicated something about those extended days, a provisional, why you have to vote a provisional, what you need to do versus what you don't need to do. And so communication is key. Whether we'll get a challenge or not, well, that depends on, the folks that want to challenge it. But we can definitely, make sure that voters understand here's how we go about doing the work. We don't change it up, right? We do the job according to what the law prescribes us to do.
Well, I wish all government officials were as clear and concise as you are. So thank you for all of that.
And available to us. Thank you very much for coming on to get the word out. It's important people use their right to vote.
That's right. And you mentioned earlier, how do you get the word out? Well, here's how one of the many ways we get the word out. Every time I come on Hello Houston, they said people always text me or send me a message and say, I heard you or I saw you on Hello Houston. So you all are very much so a part of that civic engagement. And we thank you so very much for this opportunity. I thank you for the opportunity.
Harris County Clerk Teneshia Hudspeth, again, thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you.
Coming up, we're going to revisit our interview with District 18 congressional candidate Christian Menefee ahead of tomorrow's special election. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Nikki Beatty, join me for this week's Arts Hour from the BBC. With Mexican director Guillermo del Toro on how his religious upbringing feeds his film, American singer and actor Andra Day, German filmmaker Werner Herzog, Hollywood director Paul Feig, and my conversation with British-Nigerian filmmaker Akinola Davis Jr. That's all in the Arts Hour from the BBC.
You can hear that tonight at 9 or tomorrow night at 11.
Stephanie Mickelson is an Idaho potato farmer and a Republican state representative.
I'm conservative as they come, and I believe in responsible government.
But she's not conservative enough for the far right of her party. One of them even told ICE to raid her farm.
We can't win on the front lines if we've got people undercutting us behind our back.
A civil war in the Idaho GOP on the next Reveal.
You can hear it tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Typically what I've done recently is I put on an episode of Milk Street Radio and I just stir and stir and stir.
Hi, I'm Christopher Kimball. On my show, Milk Street Radio, we want to be your companion in the kitchen. Join us each week for fascinating food stories, answers to all of your culinary mysteries, and recipes that will change the way you cook.
Milk Street Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. on News 88.7.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manus, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Tomorrow is Election Day for the 18th Congressional District to pick our U.S. House representative to finish off the term of the late Sylvester Turner. On today's program, we are revisiting our interviews with the two runoff candidates vying for this important seat. Now, our conversation with Christian Menefee, recorded back on November 5th of last year. In our last hour, we played our conversation with Amanda Edwards. Here now, Christian Menefee on Hello Houston.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It has been a very, very long 8 months of campaigning, but what we saw last night was a broad coalition of folks came together, put us in first place in the first round, and so I'm incredibly excited and proud of the work that we've done, and I had a good night's rest last night, but back to campaigning again this morning.
Yeah, no rest for the wicked, as we were saying to Andrew, because now you've got to worry about the runoff, which comes next. But for people to understand the schedule of this, too, as soon as that's over with, then there is the race actually to fill the seat for a full term, and then that begins with the primary season for March already. So you're not going to get any rest if you're planning on continuing this. And then there's also the whole understanding an issue of what happens with the maps and which districts become what. So it's a complicated next set of months for you, I would assume.
It really is. Anyone who thought when they first got into this race that this was going to be a straightforward endeavor was sadly mistaken. We've had to deal with the governor delaying the calling of the election. We've had to deal with the president of the United States reaching out to the state legislator and asking them to gerrymander the maps, changing the district. We've had to deal with 16 different people in the race in a jungle primary, which is something that does not happen often in the state of Texas. And now, of course, we're waiting for the governor to call a runoff. And then there will be the primary, and there could even be a runoff after the primary. So it's a good thing that I wake up early in the morning, hit the gym, and eat my Wheaties, because this is nowhere near over.
I liked your ad. I thought it was very clever, where you were kind of all over your house. And then you say at the end of it, you're driving your kids to school, and you say, I'm going to school Trump. What do you mean by that?
It's so funny because when we put that ad out, I had no idea that that would be the line. I won't just take Trump on, I'll take him to school. I had no clue that that would be the line that stuck with so many folks across our communities. When I was out at the polls, person after person said, take Trump to school. And it was really a reflection of what I was hearing when I was talking to people at their doors. The number one issue that folks wanted was someone who was going to rein Donald Trump in. He has conducted himself in many ways like a petulant child. Acting outside of the bounds of the Constitution, acting outside of the bounds of federal law, disrespecting the other branches of government, doing things that are obviously illegal. And so I believe what folks want is when Democrats take back the House, they want real oversight. They want real investigations, and they want a Congress that's going to act as a co-equal branch of government.
So your thoughts on, I guess, the election in New York and Virginia and Georgia. There was a lot of schooling last night.
Oh, big time. And you heard it in the remarks from many of the successful candidates, including Zohran Mamdani, the now mayor-elect of New York City. Folks are reflecting the will of their constituents, which is they want an all-out defense and protection of communities from the assault that President Trump is ravaging on our communities. And so this is a national thing. It's stuff that you're seeing across the country, but I've been shocked at how it permeates throughout every single demographic. I knocked the door of an 80-year-old African-American woman, and when she came to the door in that 30-second period before we started talking, I said to myself, she's going to care about Social Security, she's going to care about Medicaid. She looked at me and said, young man, what are you going to do about Donald Trump? It is a real issue for Republicans. It's a real issue for working class folks in our communities who are losing SNAP benefits, losing Medicaid. And so I plan to go up to Congress and not only advocate for my district, but also be a real oversight authority over the president as part of a Democratic majority in Congress.
Is Mamdani the new voice of the Democratic Party, or is he an outlier?
I think he's absolutely one of the voices of the Democratic Party now. What you're seeing is a base that is ready for a new generation of leadership. to stand up on behalf of working class folks. No longer are the days of the Democratic Party simply mimicking corporate messaging and doing the best they can to protect corporations. Folks want real grassroots leaders who are going to go out in leadership positions, hold the powerful accountable, and advocate on behalf of working class folks. Zoran Mamdani's campaign was all about that. And he also embraced forms of new media, like social media, like podcasts. People want to hear from us directly. And so I'm glad to see that we have, a fresh face in New York City, and I plan to do every single thing I can to reflect the generational and approach change here in Houston as well.
Well, and getting away from the polite Democrat approach, because that hasn't been working, you, Mamdani, and certainly Gavin Newsom, what's your thought on the California governor?
I'm glad that the governor is fighting fire with fire. Look, in a perfect world, a race to the bottom with gerrymandering would help no one, right? At the end of the day, minorities in states like Texas are going to be the ones that bear the brunt of gerrymandering. So if I ruled Congress, I would want to pass a law that bans all gerrymandering. But unfortunately, Republicans in Congress are unwilling to vote for such a law. So until then, I think Democrats have to fight fire with fire, because it's the only way that we're going to be able to protect a true representative democracy in Congress that actually allows the will of the people across the various states. What I'm most concerned about, though, is that this race to the bottom is going to result in states like California only having Democratic representatives and states like Texas only having Republican representatives. In a perfect world, in my mind, every single district throughout this country, or as many as possible, would be somewhere between 48% to 52%. That way, you got to talk to everybody. You have to be the voice of everybody. Unfortunately, we're seeing more and more politicians are picking their voters instead of voters picking their politicians. So if it were up to me, I would ban gerrymandering. But since that's not the world we live in, you got to fight fire with fire.
So speaking of compromise, which we all wish for, do you think that this sort of Democratic sweep last night will light a fire under the Republicans to come to the table with this shutdown?
I certainly hope so. But if there's been anything, Frank, that we've seen over the past, let's call it 9 years, about the Republican Party and how you acquire power in that party, it's that the single most important factor is how much you pledge your allegiance to Donald Trump. It is the cult of personality that surrounds that man. So I think that if we were looking at this through a traditional historical political analysis, you would say, oh, yeah, well, based on what we saw in the election results last night, we need to play nice with the other side because that's what America wants. However, I think in the Republican Party, Donald Trump transcends traditional political analysis and reality. And so I think folks on that side are going to do whatever Donald Trump says. He says jump. Governor Abbott says how high. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality we live in right now with the Republican Party.
Christian Menefee is with us right now. If you want to join the conversation, 713-440-8870. We have a call from Mike from West Houston. Welcome to Hello Houston, Mike.
Good morning, candidate. Thank you. Good radio station. Candidate, if you make it to Washington, D.C., I like everything that you've said so far. You will be representing one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the nation. And you will also be representing the entire nation. In dealing with the opposition, many of whom are fanatics and some of them are quite deranged, how are you going to handle it? Thank you.
Yeah, so the question there is, how am I going to handle dealing with the most extreme elements of the MAGA Republican Party? And my approach is through individual interpersonal relationships. Look, I can get along with just about anybody. When you come from a background like the one I came from, where my family had sent more people to prison than to college, and I was the first person in my family to go to college, to working at a couple of large law firms where just about nobody in the office looked like me, I've been able to navigate those spaces. And the way I've been able to do that is to build relationships with people on an individual level. That's why when a large corporation wanted to expand a landfill more deeply into a black neighborhood on the northwest side of town, I teamed up with Republican Commissioner Tom Ramsey to stop that from happening. That's why when cigarette companies tried to get our kids hooked on vaping products and peddled them in our communities, I teamed up with the Republican Attorney General, who shall not be named, and we went after them in court, and we were able to get tens of millions of dollars back to our communities. I don't agree with our Republican Attorney General on just about anything. However, when there's an opportunity to do well for our communities, I was able to set that aside, build a relationship, and get it done. So I don't care if you are from the blue party, the red party, whether you're black, white, or orange. If you are willing to work with me to get stuff done for my communities, I'm willing to work with you on that one issue. But there are going to be times to hold the line, and I will hold the line on those times. I think what's important for Democrats to remember right now is we need to show a backbone, we need to fight, and you have to fight with a scalpel and not with a sledgehammer. That's who I've been as the Harris County attorney. That's who I'll be in Congress.
You know, Frank was mentioning earlier, looking at the top 3 vote getters in this particular race, that from position points of view, you all seem to pretty much align. So for voters to understand the difference, what are you going to point out as the difference between Amanda Edwards and yourself, and why you are more in place to carry this mantle forward?
I think the suggestion from the gentleman who just called in and asked this question was, if you have a bunch of folks who are intent on stripping out the democratic norms we have in the co-equal branches of government, how are you going to deal with them? How do you fight back? And I think I'm the only candidate in this race who has a track record of fighting back and winning to protect our communities. When Donald Trump himself cut more than $20 million in healthcare programs right here in Harris County, I took him to court, beat him, and every single dollar was restored. When the Attorney General tried to throw out more than 2,000 legally cast ballots in Harris County, I took him to court, beat him, and every single vote was counted. What people are looking for is folks that they can send out to Washington, D.C., and they will be sure, regardless of which room they're in, they will fight for our communities. I have a clear track record in my 4 years of being Harris County attorney of doing that time after time after time in a way that was never for headlines, in a way that was never to get invited to luncheons or galas or any of that insider class stuff, but because I believe deeply in the power of our communities and advocating for working people and restoring the middle class in this country. So I think what voters are going to be looking for is receipts. And if anybody in this race tells you that they will fight for you, there's nobody who has more receipts in this space than I do.
We are talking with Harris County attorney who's currently in the runoff for the Texas 18th Congressional District to represent us in Washington, Christian Menefee. If you want to join the conversation, 713-440-8870. Pat is on the line from Central Houston. Pat, what's on your mind?
Well, I'd love to know his opinion on Citizens United decision that the Supreme Court handed down a few years ago. I sort of feel that it's been a real scourge to the people being voted one person, one vote, and has handed a lot of our power to the corporations through a lack of campaign finance reform.
Pat,
I'd like his opinion on that and whether or not he would fight against it.
Yes, we'll find out right now. Thank you for calling, Pat.
Thank you very much for the question, Pat. I 100% support any type of statutory change that we can to address the Citizens United decision, which basically says that a corporation is a person and that money is speech. And so therefore, folks can put any amount of soft money, which is when you pay money into a race, but you don't give it directly to a candidate, but you advocate for that candidate or against the candidate separate from the campaign to any dollar amount. And so we've seen a bunch of large organizations be able to pour millions and millions of dollars into these races. And what it does is it strips away the true local nature of these races. When I run for office, I want to be able to just talk to people in my community. I don't want to spend all day on the phones asking people for money because, I'm concerned that somebody's going to come and drop $5 million in my race against me because they don't like where I stand on one particular issue. I think we severely need campaign finance reform in this country. And that's why I have not taken a single dollar of corporate PAC money in this campaign. In the first round, we raised $1.7 million in this campaign. And that's from folks throughout our communities. We had an average donation of about $80 a pop. Folks were chipping in because they believed in us and they believed in the message. I have not accepted corporate PAC donations. I will not accept corporate PAC donations. I think we need to get that type of big money out of our politics and return to the days where you were able to truly represent the will of your district and not have to become part of the in the Beltway class in order to be successful in elections. So thank you very much for your question, Pat, and I will do everything I can to fight against that nonsensical Citizens United decision from the United States Supreme Court.
A couple of YouTube comments. One from Alex says, Christian, thank you for your Rainbow Walk address on October 14th. Another from Charlie Parker says, thank you for protecting working people against corporations. And we have a couple of questions from our newsroom. First of all, Christian, what exactly will happen with your position as the acting Harris County attorney?
Under the law, Commissioner's Court is authorized to replace me by a vote of 3 members of Commissioner's Court at any time that they please. The item was on the last Commissioner's Court agenda. They discussed it. And I think it'll be on the next Commissioner's Court agenda as well. So Commissioner's Court is free to replace me whenever they so choose. But under the Texas Constitution, I must and am required to continue serving until I am replaced. So I have happily done that. And we've gotten a bunch of wins even during the course of this campaign. We recently went after a couple that was committing deed fraud and had stolen dozens and dozens of homes from people throughout our communities. We beat them in court, and we were able to get more than 40 people their home ownership restored. And I'm so incredibly proud of that. But I'll be replaced at the will of Commissioner's Court, and I trust that they'll make a great decision to ensure that that office continues to fight and advocate for everyday folks throughout our county.
So is that strictly an appointment, or is it later an election?
So it is an appointment to determine who serves in the immediate term, but it is automatically, by state law, goes on the ballot for next March. It'll be on next March's primary and then next November's general, and then it will again then return to the original term, so it will be on the ballot for 2028 as well. So anybody interested in serving as a Harris County attorney would run here in 2026 and then would have to run again in 2028, and then they wouldn't run again until 2032.
Okay, it seems to me that you and Amanda both are going to be fighting for Jelonda Jones supporters. And you all three, as Ernie pointed out, are sort of on the same page when it comes to issues. So what are you going to say to Jones supporters to bring them to your camp?
Well, I've talked with many supporters of State Representative Jelonda Jones. Let me tell you, the brand that State Representative Jones has built over her career is being a fighter. Anybody knows her knows that she is not afraid to use her voice to stand up for communities. She's not afraid to throw the punches when necessary. And I think that directly aligns with the work that I've done as Harris County attorney. So what I plan to say to supporters of State Representative Jelonda Jones is the same thing I've been saying throughout this entire campaign. I will fight for you and I will win for you. And here's the evidence to prove that I have done that in my time in public office, and I will continue to do that. And I don't think that anybody else in this race will be able to point to receipts of them fighting for communities and having success at doing it. So I feel very good about the message that we're going to be able to present to those voters, and I feel good that they will understand it and that they will embrace it.
That was our conversation with Christian Menefee. We aired our conversations with Amanda Edwards in our 11 a.m. hour. Both interviews are available on our YouTube channel and on at HelloHouston.org. Coming up, we're going to discuss our last-minute plans. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Want to binge All Creatures Great and Small, catch up on Nova, or revisit Ken Burns' documentaries? You can with PBS Passport. With a gift of $5 or more per month to Houston Public Media, you'll get access to PBS Passport that lets you watch your favorite programs anytime you want. Support the programs you love and enjoy them on your own schedule with PBS Passport. Make your gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Adam Burke sympathized with the astronaut who said her husband is always calling her in space to find out where things are.
Honey, the Tupperware goes in the top drawer. It's not rocket science, and I should know.
I'm Peter Sagal. You can find this week's news quiz exactly where you left it, but this time with special guest John Chu, the director of Wicked. That's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me from NPR.
It's on Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m.
This week in This American Life, 911 calls about ICE agents from around the country.
I've got 2 vehicles that are in Border Patrol and they're following me, and I'm a U.S. citizen, and there's actually 4 of them trying to ram into my car. Can you please send someone ASAP?
They're calls from emergency rooms, business owners, and immigration agents themselves.
I'm a Border Patrol agent. They stole my uniform.
That's this week.
You can listen Saturday at 11 a.m.
I'm Christopher Kimball from Milk Street Radio. What really happened to Gourmet Magazine? Well, this week we chat with Gourmet's final editor-in-chief, Ruth Reichel, about the magazine's rise and fall, the expense accounts, and the politics of publishing. Plus, we meet the pasta grannies, and we get a lesson in hotel room cooking from Alex Inuz. That's coming up this week on Milk Street Radio from PRX.
Milk Street Radio is on Sunday at 1 p.m.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
It's officially the end of the week. Any weekend plans, Ernie? Any weekend plans, Frank?
Okay, my weekend plan, boring but very needed. I'm finally getting my hair cut.
Well, we were going to vote for that now that you bring it up.
It's gotten a little out of hand here. So.
No.
Yes, I'm getting it cut. And I also think when it gets too long, it looks too thin because I think it weighs down and pulls apart. So I want to get it cut short and fluff it up in the middle and try and fake full head of hair for a little
that's an
longer.
accurate self-analysis, isn't it?
There you go.
I'm proud of you.
How about
I'm
you,
very
Frank?
open.
What are you up to this weekend?
Well, we're going to go down to Galveston for tonight,
Mm-hmm.
just because we haven't been. And we want to check on the plants and how they have been faring
Yeah.
in the cold weather. And then we're going to come back tomorrow for a little Mardi Gras party. That's already starting.
That's already
I
starting.
know, so that's tomorrow night. And then Sunday, we don't have a lot planned, except to do some busy work like go through files. Except my husband is OCD. Which is the best thing that ever happened to
Absolutely.
me. Absolutely. And so he labels everything. He went out and bought a label maker. He bought more files. He has everything. Because we're at the point in our lives where we don't really need the closing statement from 1997.
Right.
So we're thinning out a little bit and becoming more and more organized. So
I love that. Well, if you're listening and joining us right now on Hello Houston, we've got you covered if you don't have your plans ready yet. On Saturday, there's a hot chocolate run Houston 5K, 10K, and 10 miler at Sam Houston Park.
Hold on a second, Celeste. Frank, what are you doing? Ernie, what are you doing? Celeste, what are you doing?
are you running in this race?
I will not be running in this race. I got full disclosure. We've got basketball weekend. My daughter cheers for her elementary school. They've got their first basketball games. Philip is on a little tadpole league. How cute is that? And so I'm just doing mom stuff.
Duty?
Mom duties. You'll see me around town, heading to the grocery store. Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to make sure you had your moment, too.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
There's more than just a haircut and cleaning paperwork in this crew.
And Hot Chocolate Run, again, is at Sam Houston Park, and this is considered America's sweetest run. Runners can choose either a 5K, 10K, or 10 miler, and await a tasty hot chocolate after they cross the finish line. Start times are at 7:15 and 8:15 a.m. So if you're a runner, you want to do an organized race this weekend, I think that one's fun.
We mentioned my obsession yesterday. Tomorrow is Melody Festivalen Heat 1. They call it Döttling. I don't know how to say it correctly in Swedish. And you can watch that online starting at 1 o'clock on YouTube if you can find it. SVT is the Swedish broadcaster that does it.
And for our sports fans, Houston Rockets versus the Dallas Mavericks at Toyota Center. It'll be City Night, so the Rockets will be wearing their white H-Town City Edition uniforms. And the game starts at 7:30 for those that might not want to go to the game, but they want to go and hang out in our city and see one.
You know, there are some wonderful restaurants down there around Toyota Center.
Yeah.
And you can really make it a date night. And, have a nice dinner, then go watch the game and decide what you want to do afterward.
And Neil Berg's 50 years of rock and roll at the Grand 1894 Opera House. That
Go
sounds
Galveston.
cool. That's right. Featuring a cast of both stars from Broadway's greatest rock musicals, as well as incredible rock and roll singers. Neil Berg will share stories from the 50-year history of music that changed the world forever, with tributes such important and iconic rock stars and groups including Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley, Bob Dylan, the Beatles, Aretha Franklin, Bruce Springsteen, and so many others. The show starts at 8 p.m.
In addition to that, I think it's Monday, Tuesday, Maureen Patton from the Grand 1894 is going to be here on the show talking about what
good.
they have
I love
coming up.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't know that she was going to be on.
Yeah, and it's a great venue. If you're down in Galveston, definitely, and if you're not, it's an easy ride to get down there.
When Tony Bennett was there a few years back, he stopped and he said, you don't get opera houses like this anymore with the acoustics so amazing. And he said, I want to sing a cappella for you. And just overwhelmed everyone because the acoustics are really that good.
I was at the 1894 when Liza Minnelli was there.
I was there too.
And she had lost her luggage.
Didn't you get me backstage?
Yeah,
to meet
you
her?
came backstage with us to meet her.
That is
but
so
she had
cool.
lost her luggage, so they had gone to a store and gotten
Like
just
Neiman Marcus. Who
yeah,
Neiman Marcus.
a
And bought this
pantsuit.
orange and black. She looked like Halloween.
Yeah, and she came out. I was like, I'm sorry, I don't have my luggage. But she put on a great show.
She was fun.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, though, not to tell on her, but we went into the dressing room. I've never seen an ashtray more full of cigarette butts in my life. And I used to smoke. I smoked in the 90s.
Are you doing a Liza hand gesture over there, Celeste?
Yeah, snapping,
She has just one more Liza moment. She has a brand new single out. Just came out this week. It's an AI-generated song. She did new vocals for it. It's kind of she speaks and a dance track plays underneath it, but it's in conjunction with her autobiography that's coming out.
Question, when you say AI-generated, would that be the same as auto-tune?
Different, because auto-tune would take a piece of music and play with it and put the echo in and work with it and create from it, where an AI-generated track, I think you put in what you want, it generates the music. But she put but the cover photo, if you can see it online, go and take a look at it. She insists there's a new picture of her, but she has come forward to say it has been AI handled
Generated.
and photoshopped a bit because it looks like her from the 70s. There's no way it's her today.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm sorry.
And going into the rest of the weekend on Sunday, I know that if you are running in Sunday, this is not a last-minute plan. You've been training. The 2026 Galveston Marathon at Galveston Seawall, featuring scenic Gulf views, sea breeze miles, and post-race celebrations at the end. Good luck to all those marathoners that are going to be running. Runners can participate in a full marathon, half, or a 5K. The race starts at 7:30 a.m. So, Frank.
Ooh, it's going to be about 34 degrees. I know.
It'll be chilly
and
out
a high
there.
of 50 on Sunday. So,
But, marathoners prepare for that type of stuff.
and no precipitation, so clear and cold.
Oh, that'll be nice.
And
That'll
not
be great.
much wind either. So I think they'll be in good shape.
And this is exciting. Axolotl Day at Downtown Aquarium. This event will have exhibit chats, animal encounters, hands-on activities, and lots of opportunities to learn all about axolotls and salamanders. There's the thing, axolotls have taken over this whole new generation of young kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cute. Plus, there will also be a conservation booth for biofacts, coloring activities, and a chance to support wildlife conservation. If you donate $1 and you'll receive an authentic shark tooth. That's cool. And that's from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Now,
Nice.
Ernie, you might want to read this next one.
Might I? It's the Real Abilities Houston, and they're going to present the Real Art for All. And that's part of the whole Real Abilities celebration festival that happens throughout the month. This is Real Art exhibit. We'll have various family-friendly and interactive activities. You'll be able to see the world through the eyes of artists from Celebration Company, an entrepreneurial employment program for adults with disabilities. And you get to enjoy the work of this year's featured artist, Emmett Kyoshi Wilson, if I'm saying it correctly, a Chicago-based artist and proud advocate of inclusion who uses his vibrant abstract art to champion individuals with unique abilities. And this event will go from 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m.
And I wanted you to read that because, that's one of the organizations that you've supported for many years.
Yeah, I get involved with Real Music, which will have their concert at the end of February, and we'll talk more about that. But it's a month-long celebration of all of the diverse abilities that make up our community. And so very happy to be part of it, but very happy for this event.
Yeah.
Nice. Have you seen this Timothée Chalamet movie with the table tennis?
I have.
What'd you think?
I liked it.
Yeah?
It's long-ish.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's fun in the sense that it goes on a journey.
Okay. Well, we have something you're going to want to do.
Oh, what am I going to want to do?
There's a Major League Table Tennis tournament going on in Houston
I see where you're going.
all weekend long. It's the Texas Smash facing off against teams from Atlanta, Chicago, and North Carolina. 3 days of matches featuring both Olympic standouts and international icons.
I love that. And I do have something for if you are from South Texas. The Real Women Have Curves at Alley Theater, this comedic play inspired by the critically acclaimed 2002 film of the same name, follows 5 Latina women navigating pressures of body image, expectations, and immigration. One of those actresses is Gloria Benavides. She is from Brownsville, Texas, and I grew up with her, and this is her debut. So congratulations to those 5 Latinas that are
And of course, you can always go vote if you're in the 18th.
Please vote tomorrow.
Please
it's
vote.
so important. And remember, you're going to have to vote again in just a couple of weeks.
Yes.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
But unfortunately, we've come to the end of what we're doing this week, at least for all of you.
We've run out of time.
Have we really?
It happens.
Yeah.
But we want to thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston, joining us all week.
Well,
you know what?
should. The Super Bowl's next weekend.
But also on this weekend, we've still got Best of Hello Houston. So if you missed any of the shows during the week, tune in for Best of Hello Houston.
And you can still hear our interviews with the candidates for
Christian
District
Menefee
18.
and Amanda Edwards. It's online. Look on YouTube to hear these interviews. It's important that you know who you're voting for when you go out to vote and let your voice be heard.
Okay, I think we've now officially run
Have we
out of
plugged
time.
everything we needed to plug?
I always wait till I hear the music.
There it is. And again, we want to thank you for watching and listening, engaging with us today on Hello Houston. And this week, we'll be back with more conversations. And have a great weekend, Houston.
Yeah, be safe out there.
Be safe.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menefee, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston system, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates,